I'm here.
Hi, there you are. Welcome to
I'm
the
doing
Poppins
good.
Report. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so glad that you're here and you made it, and we're here talking. And I'm going to jump into it. What we can do is we can focus on maybe like 20-minute segments, or
Sure.
you know, because I just wrote up a couple different topics, but obviously we could probably talk about what comes off of your mind. But we've got Latinos for Trump. We've got confirming a justice. The referendum from vengeful and vindictive Democrats, the debates, and even
I can't wait till the
Biden,
debates. I can't wait till the
right?
debates.
And living in California or the USA with COVID, with more and more information that we're getting on a daily basis that things aren't exactly how they were meant to be, and we've been being lied to, Vehicles 2035, California, no more gas vehicles. So we have a lot to talk about. So,
You know, this man is going to destroy everything, because think about this. What are we going to do with all the vehicles that we buy today or for the next 10 years? So
well,
in 5 years, we're going to throw them all out?
he's even stated that, you know, oh, well, this is going to mean definitely another a number of businesses and a number of job locations are going to be lost in California, because now you're shifting to
More loss.
We're going to take a quick break. I got a cat breaking through. Get back. I know, right? We got cats. This is the real deal. Without further ado, here we go. Well, hello everybody, and this is the Poppins Report, and you're tuning in to thepoppinsreport.com. This is Gina Destito, and I have as my amazing guest today, John Goya. We have so much to talk about. We're just going to jump right into it. How are you doing today, John?
Well, I'm doing great here in Southern California, in the socialist communist state of Gavin Newsom.
You know, and let's just start right there. I mean, my goodness, California, communist. Once upon a time, it was beautiful beaches and beautiful weather, and now you're in lockdown. So what is going on in California on this day, 44 days before our presidential election?
Well, you know, I'll tell you, we've had a lot of Trump rallies. In fact, we had one, a big one, about a week and a half ago on a Sunday morning.
And this is California, mind you, Southern California.
Southern California, yeah. We had approximately 2.5 miles of 2 lanes of nothing but Trump trucks and Trump cars, and the media reported that we literally had not 2.5 miles worth, but that we had about 100 people show up. And I was like, who did they send to report on this? Because I have the pictures. In fact, I was running low on gas because it was really taking a long time to move all those trucks and cars out. And I got to tell you, the police did a great job of helping us do it. I stopped for gas. I took about 10 minutes to get gas, and I got back in line. Of course, this time I was in the back part of the line, and I was shocked that after getting gas for 10 minutes, filling up my truck, I was still in the Trump train. I was going, there was plenty of people. I will say that as we went along the path of Ventura, I was really surprised with the amount of support that we had for the people on the street. We did have a few fingers from people in cars.
Did you see that one woman who was driving, who went to do the double barrel and then ended up landing the people in front of her?
But you know, it was funny. The women, the people that were doing it were white women with masks, alone in their cars. So they're alone in their cars with masks on and giving us the finger. I'm like, why are they wearing masks? Don't they realize that the mask is to be when you're around people less than 6 feet? But so that tells you the type of women that we were dealing with. that were giving us the finger.
Well, didn't
But
Biden just do a Zoom call and he had a mask on during the Zoom call? I mean,
yes,
you learn by example,
yes,
and now he's hiding Biden. Him and Kamala Harris are completely gone. He's only been visible literally 13 days out of the last month. He has been completely incommunicado after the last 10 days. And now it's preparing for a debate? I don't think so. What do you think?
well, I think that what they're doing is because the polls are saying that he's so ahead of President Donald J. Trump, that he's hiding in the basement because he figured if he comes out, every time he comes out, he gives a ridiculous answer like 200 million Americans have died of coronavirus. And
Or I pledge allegiance to the flag for real.
yeah, for real, under what, he doesn't know what God, doesn't know the word God. But the thing that fascinates me is that the media is so for these people. So they're all being bought. I mean, we know the Democratic Party is crooked and they're all bought. And unfortunately, we have a few Republicans that are in that group. Can't afford to get rid of them right now, but I think we need to down the road. But it's really sad to see that when you look at CNN and you look at MSNBC, hee haw, and even Fox News, they this week was reported on Biden's son how the Russians paid him off so many millions of dollars, how the Chinese, it was all open in Congress, it was all discussed, and the media didn't say a word.
Well, Ben Shapiro talked about that. He said it was a drip, drip, drip. And then by the time everything comes out, oh, that's old news, that's old news. But when you literally have Cuomo and Lemon going at it, and Lemon saying, we've got to blow the whole thing up, and Cuomo's like, I don't think we can do that. When you have the words of wisdom from Cuomo as a reporter,
that's pretty bad, right?
Upside down day. I don't know what to do here.
You know what? I'm starting to believe that the upper echelons of the Democratic Party has decided that this election's lost. Mm-hmm. And the people like Cuomo want to run in 2024. So, when Don Lemon, who's the biggest hypocrite on television on CNN,
right. And the brother reporter Cuomo, where they did the handoff.
Fredo Cuomo I think Fredo Cuomo's number 2, but I think Don Lemon is number 1.
Fredo Cuomo starts saying, well, we can't just blow it up. We can't just throw out the electoral college. There is a process that needs to happen there. And when Fredo is the words of wisdom?
I know. That's what I'm saying. Fredo's number 2, but Lemon is definitely number 1. He's the biggest hypocrite that we have on television. It's simply, when the man says that the biggest danger to America is the white American male, and he's married to a white dude, what is all that about? And then when you hear him talk about when Barack Hussein Obama was president, about the children on the border, and you hear him talk about now, you go, hey, years ago when Barack put him in cages, you were like, well, he's trying to protect them. Now when Trump doesn't put them in cages and has never put them in cages, it's like, oh, he's showing pictures of 2014. So you really can't trust anything Don Lemon says because he lies. He's the biggest fraud on television.
Well, interestingly enough, the media has now won the toss-up of who has lost the most points. So the media is actually less believable than Congress is. So, and I think what Congress was, I think, 17%, 15%.
That's pretty bad.
Maybe they're at a negative in this situation. And when you're talking about hearing disinformation, now what's just happening in California? I mean, we're starting to find ballots thrown away in trash cans, these mail-in ballots. I mean,
but that has always happened here in California. I mean, look at the last election of 2018. And by the way, I really hope that the Republican Party here in California is going to do ballot harvesting, because the Democrats have been doing it forever. And it's legal here in California. And when you look at what's going on in California,
Well, they
when you
changed
look at,
all the laws in California to allow just what you're talking about, and even receiving ballots up to almost a week to 2 weeks past election day. And
they want to count them, but you see, it all depends on who it is, and they want to count them simply because on election night, like I was saying, in 2018, in Orange County, the Republicans' congressional districts were all won, except for one, were all won by Republicans on the night of the election. 2 weeks later, when they had to confirm, thousands of ballots just, appeared for the Democrats. And there were thousands of ballots that weren't counted because supposedly the governor had won already. So it got to a point where there were literally millions of ballots that hadn't been counted. And when you look at Orange County on election night, the Republican candidate had won by over 350,000 votes. Now, you mean to tell me that Republicans that voted for the Republican gubernatorial candidate didn't vote for the congressional people and went to the Democrats? I don't think so. But on the night of the election, they all won. 2 weeks later, they found enough ballots so that they didn't win. It's the same thing that happened in the election in Arizona with Martha McSally,
even
where
in
on
Hillary,
election
Nevada,
night,
I was there, absolutely.
yeah,
We were ahead.
I was there too.
They
On
called it,
election,
and then all of a sudden we lost 6 days later.
6 days later, they found a box with 20,000 ballots, and they all went to the Democrat. They were talking about, I think in Pennsylvania, today they found that they had about 9, they found 9 ballots that were discarded. 7 were for Trump and 2 were for Biden. So they said, well, at least they're throwing everybody's away. I'm going, no, because if you they threw 2 of Biden's away so that they can't say it's all Trump. But when you have 7 of Trump and 2 of Biden, that says a lot.
So
and in California, they do it too.
With all of these millions of mail-in ballots, not even specifically absentee ballots, I think this is a really great segue for us to talk about a Supreme Court seat and to fill that, and a 4-4, not 5-3, because we can't count on Roberts. But
No.
what this means now coming into an election that could very well be decided by the legislative body of the Supreme Court, and the potential picks that are going to be women, and one possibly even Cuban from the great state of Florida. However,
Yes.
we want the best person in the seat that's going to be there for the next 30 to 40 years, easily.
Could be, yeah, easily.
So let's talk about that, and let's talk about this, how the switchover of the Democrats saying, oh no, you can't vote or bring in to the seat of a new Supreme Court justice this time, but last time when it was Obama was up to bat, oh no, you can't fill that seat. You have to fill that seat. So they're making up the point. So talk to us about what your thought process is about
let me tell you exactly what happened. If you go back to when George Bush was president and Biden was then the head of the Senate Committee for Courts.
He was a completely different Biden in comparison to where he is now.
Well, if you go back to Biden always made things up. Biden always lied. Biden always copied. So it's just an older version of the same garbage we had back then. So anyway, so if you go back to when Bush's first term and he was going into his second term, 8 months before the election, there was an open seat in the Supreme Court. And Biden then said, absolutely not. We're not going to, because it was controlled by the Democrats, and they were hoping that George Bush would lose. So they basically said, nope, we're not going to do it. And the Republicans back then said, listen, that's against the Constitution. Well, I don't care. I'm going to rule because I am, we're not going to do it in an election year. We're not going to do an election year. So move forward to Barack Hussein Obama, when he had an opening in an election year, but this time the Republicans controlled the Senate. They said, you know what? What's good for the gander is good for the goose. So you didn't let us, you refused to give George Bush the nominee, who, by the way, he nominated a Mexican American for that position. And even when he nominated after he won, they still wouldn't let him have it because they refused to give a Mexican American a seat on the Supreme Court.
Hmm.
That was the Democrats. So anyway, so when Barack Hussein Obama decided during an election year that he was going to nominate a Supreme Court justice, the Republicans, rightly so, said, you know what? You didn't let us do it back then. We're not going to let you do it now, which was the right thing to do because, and I'm very proud of the Republicans because usually the Republicans let the Democrats just walk all over them, but this time they didn't. And I'm very happy about that.
Lindsey Graham is definitely saying elections have consequences, just like AOC's elections have consequences. And you could be darn tootin' if the situation was reversed right now, they would be doing the same thing.
Correct. So here's the deal. The law of the land is very, very concise. You're supposed to do it. You're supposed to, it doesn't matter. A president still has to nominate you in an election year. In fact, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was being interred today, who was in the Capitol Rotunda, as the first woman ever in the Capitol Rotunda, which is fantastic. Sad that we had to come to 2020 to do it. It should have been done many, many years before. Okay. But anyway, it's the first woman and the first Jewish person to be in the Rotunda at the Capitol. But when back in 2016, when this happened, she said a president continues being a president and he should be allowed to nominate. Once again, I think that a president should be allowed to nominate. The reason it didn't happen in 2016 is because when it was the Republican earlier on, they didn't let him do it. So the Republicans paid the Democrats back. The Democrats change the law as they see fit when they're in control, but then when you pay them back with their same money, they're like, oh my God, no, you can't do that. You Republicans have to follow the law. We can do whatever the heck we want. So I think that it's very appropriate for Donald Trump, who is not a politician, who is a leader, an excellent, and is following the Constitution of the United States, to nominate a Supreme Court justice. Now, it's going to be interesting because we know that he is going to nominate a woman. And we're going to see how the Democrats are going to destroy a woman. So, you know, they're always talking about, oh, how racist we Republicans are. Well, you know what? The real racists are the Democrats. And they have been, and they will always be racist. In fact, you know, when you look at—
It's very telling. What you're saying is truth. And especially how they're going to eviscerate a Catholic. Because as we well know, Dianne Feinstein, in her immortal words, when she went to go ahead and confirm the potential nominee, was that the dogma lives loudly in you.
Yes. And you know what's funny is that my response back to her would have said, yes, the dogma lives very loudly in me and I don't steal. By the way, how's your husband doing? Because we all know that Dianne Feinstein's husband is one of the biggest crooks and she's helped him do it legally.
What about Dianne Feinstein's driver, China, communist, 20 years?
Yes, and by the way, the Democrats have sold out the United States to the Chinese for many, 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 many years. And unfortunately, one or two Republicans also. But the Democrats, and that's what they're all upset about, because all these people are used to getting money from China for selling our businesses and our jobs to them. And, you know, they get billions of dollars from our businesses, and yet, and then they give our politicians a couple of crumbs, as I call it. They might be millions of dollars to them, but it's a couple of crumbs. And the bottom line is, and I've got to turn off my company phone here. I'm sorry for
That's okay. Go right ahead.
But the bottom line is that we have to understand that this election is crucial, because the Supreme Court is crucial, because we put constitutionalists on the court 95% of the time. Roberts, They must have something very juicy on Roberts. I would love to find out someday.
He's the consummate rhino, absolutely.
But he could be the typical, Mitt Romney rhino. But we have to protect our Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court, if it gets packed by the Democrats the way they want to pack it, add more people so that they can absolutely, make it a political body instead of a judicial body, it will just it will destroy the United States. I mean, the Democrats tried to do it once before in the 40s.
Donald Roosevelt attempted to do it, and then they attempted to do it not too long ago, and that was even Ruth Bader Ginsburg at that point said, we've got 9, we're fine with 9. As well as she also stated that a president is elected for 4 years. From the day that he is sworn into office until the last day at 12 noon, he is still, and there is no way, shape, or form Donald J. Trump is currently a lame dunk president.
Never. He never will be
out of office. He has all the ability that he can continue, and even when whoever wordsmithed, quote unquote, Ruth Bader Ginsburg last words being that to not fill my seat until the president is installed, I'd like to have a conversation that the word installed is something that Kim Jong-il, when he died, Kim Jong-un as a god and a dictator was installed. We elect and we swear in our president.
You know what? If I've seen the life and I've read the book of.
I think it would be horrible for my last words to be talking political. I would want to be talking to my family.
And I strongly doubt that woman used the last breath or even the last 2 or 3 days of her life to talk politics, and not to be talking to her children, her grandchildren, her family. I mean, when you're on your dying bed, it's not how many emails I've answered or what have I done with my job, but how's my because like it or not, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is going to be forgotten in 5 years.
And Scalia's opinions and his votes will definitely live in infamy and be in the history books.
Yeah, but your families who remembers you, your family who pray for you, your family and your close friends are the ones that you live on through. We have great people, great Americans that have lived and died. I mean, I'll tell you a very quick story. Martin Luther King, one of America's greatest human beings, Martin Luther King. I taught a class about 6 years ago here in Los Angeles with a bunch of young Americans. They were Americans, they weren't foreigners. And we had a mixture of Latin Americans, Black Americans, white Americans. And when I brought up the topic of, we were talking about leadership, and one of the people I've always used is Martin Luther King about his leadership and how words are more powerful than anything else. And I looked at a young American, a young Black American, and I said, well, Martin Luther King was such a great inspirer. And he looked at me and goes, well, the only Martin Luther King I know is the boulevard that I live close to. I go, excuse me? And there was a class of about, I think it was 22. There were 3 people in that class who knew who Martin Luther King was. 3 people, 3 young people. The rest, oh yeah, he's some boulevard, some boulevard. That's what they said.
Well, and God bless then our president, who is literally going ahead and doing an executive order to bring civics back into the classroom.
Absolutely.
To bring our curriculum back to the knowledge of what our heritage is and where we came from, and to be proud as a nation where we've come through, because obviously history repeats itself.
It does, and it's going to. And like I said, look, we weren't perfect. No nation, no people are perfect. But we're the best there is on earth. And we've made our mistakes. Let's not make them again.
That one Cuban American who actually was speaking at the Republican convention, where he said, this is all we have left. If
That's
America
right.
falls, there is nothing like this anywhere else.
We'll go back into the Dark Ages when the Holy Roman Empire collapsed, and we went into the Dark Ages, and it took us 500 years. Well, in today's world, if America goes, I don't know if we'll ever come back. I don't know if we'll ever come back.
I mean, and that's literally so horrifying to think about. But I've got to give you some feedback. We had a conversation on our last podcast where I asked you, what do we need to do as America to bring this to fruition? And you said it was the women, it was the mothers,
Yes.
it was the Christian mothers, it was the family. And now literally, as we have fights walking into the suburb, while you're sleeping, they're coming to the suburbs. I think that was very, very mindful, because I've spoke to so many different people, and they really truly believe that that is the voice that is going to bring us through this. Because back to, in the immortal words of Network, the movie, Give a Hat Tip, most people haven't even seen that, but it was, I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
That's right.
I mean, you're in California right now, and you are literally being threatened that if you move out in the next 3 years, doesn't matter where you go, and you make over $1 million, they're gonna follow you, and they're gonna continue to tax you.
Well, guess what? I pay the minute I leave the state, I ain't giving them a dime. But I will tell you that something has to happen in California. And I think right now, well, I can tell you that right now, we are concentrating on the presidential election. But mark my words, after this presidential election, the Republican Party, or at least the Trumpsters like myself, we're going to turn our attention to California. And in 2022, we're going to get rid of Gavin Newsom. And that is a promise.
He has to go. He has to go. I mean, well, even look at Maxine Waters. Look at Nancy Pelosi. You have 75% of registered voters in California are Democrats. And you're going to have to go ahead and swing that. But the way in what California is ending up into, I mean, you're still locked down, right? Kids aren't going to school. Restaurants aren't open. Bars aren't open.
Other than Orange County, where you could go to a restaurant and eat like a human being, the rest of the state is locked down. Other than some Republican counties up north, and the rest of, and even in LA, I mean, the state health department said they were going to relax some places like, you know, barbers and nail salons, and a lot of people make their living on that. LA County has said nope. They're gonna continue to destroy the state, and then they're gonna put articles like they did in the paper the other day. Oh, you can't live on $245 with 4 kids. Well, first of all, if you're a single person and you have 4 kids, you need to ask yourself why.
There's a problem already there.
And if you can only afford to make $300 or $400 a week and you have 4 kids, you need to ask yourself why. That's a problem.
That's part of the problem, absolutely.
So, and you know, when I read these stories,
it's not the child's fault, and it's not.
No, it's not.
Those 4 children, you know, they are amazing children of God, and right now, even segueing to that, where the situation of where we are with the Supreme Court of Roe versus Wade. Roe versus Wade wasn't a situation that was outlawing abortion. Even if it got overturned, it was actually protecting the physicians doing the abortions, not necessarily the individual person. And now where we have technology that you can see what a 20-week-old baby actually looks inside the womb and is literally fully formed. And now you have Kamala Harris saying that we need to protect abortion to 20 weeks, even to 9 months, even to the scenario of at birth, taking
Yes.
a infanticide. And now our president has just want to go ahead and institute an executive order that after an abortion, a failed abortion, has not managed to murder the baby, that emergency resuscitation will be provided. I mean, this is another major crucible in what's going on, and especially being able to, I see right behind you all of these religious ornaments, and where the Mexican and Latino
I've
Latino
collected
women.
them. You know what? A lot of them are mine, and a lot of them, as my family members have passed, they've left them to me. So I'm very proud to have my my celestial court behind me. I figure I need some protection as I work.
Absolutely. And talking about celestial court, we're not even talking about, you're here saying women's rights. Well, what about a girl or a boy's rights or gender that's inside that's, in that gestation?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The Democrats have gone, as you said, as far as to keep the child comfortable after it's born,
while the woman decides
whether the child,
because you're in a complete perfectly state of mind after you just birthed a child or looking to abort a child, and now
not even that. That is to that. I mean, to inject a child is when I had to put my puppy to sleep because he had parvo and there was nothing. After thousands of dollars I spent, we couldn't save him. I was distraught for a month because of a puppy. And I cannot even imagine putting first of all, abortion to me is horrible, but I couldn't even imagine having a normal child or even a child with special needs. Those special needs children are blessings from God. That's the way I see them. Because they teach us every day of how incredible you could be. But getting to the point, I cannot see injecting the baby to we have no problem injecting a live child.
You cannot even, I know you don't even want to hear the words of what it sounds like, but to literally go further, during the Republican convention, there was a woman who had formerly worked with Planned Parenthood, and she had oversaw different abortions, and it was just beyond heart-wrenching for her to say that the speculum that was suctioning up the baby was attempting to get away from it, and the doctor was literally saying, "Beam me up, Scotty," as pieces were going up the suction tube. And they don't even realize that the baby needs to be put back together after the abortion to make sure no pieces are left in the uterus. So it's horrific. I mean, you cannot even begin to describe.
Let me tell you something. I'm gonna have nightmares tonight. But this is the difference.
I'm sorry, but it's just it's almost to the point that we really have to put this in front of people's faces that this isn't science fiction. This isn't the movies. This isn't pretend. You can't shut your eyes anymore.
You can't. And the difference between us, the Republican Party, and the Democratic Party. The Democrats have no problem injecting a newborn baby or a baby in the womb and putting them down.
Or even saying, I embrace my abortions.
But they have a problem injecting a murderer who has raped a young girl, has stabbed her, has beheaded her, and then it's inhuman
because there's so much pain involved. There'd be so much pain involved for the convicted killer on death row.
That they have a problem with. That's the difference. Whenever people ask me, what's the difference between a Republican and a Democrat? I said, very simple. A Republican has no problem injecting an SOB who's murdered, who stole the life of a beautiful young woman or a young man or anyone, putting them to death. But we have a real big problem putting to death a newborn baby. That's the difference between a Democrat and a Republican. We won't kill a child, but we will take the life of a murderer. And the Democrats the other way around. The Democrats want to take the life of as many children as they can, especially African American children, because those are the ones that mostly get aborted. But they have a terrible
60
time.
million. The statistics have been over 60 million abortions.
Yes.
60
Yes.
million. I mean, when we're talking about 6 million of a euthanization and an extinction of a superiority in World War II of what Hitler ordered in death camps for 6 million.
10 times that.
60. It absolutely, the idea of Marxism, and let's talk about that. We're here talking about the difference between Democrats and Republicans, but Marx himself stated that ruthless criticism towards everything that exists. And this is literally where we've got to. And I think this is another segue into BLM. Black Lives Matter has been around for almost a decade now, being funded by a number of different scenarios, back to George Soros.
Mostly him.
Their two co-founders have specifically stated that we are trained Marxists.
Yes.
There's no conversation with a Marxist. And even talking about communism and Marxism, I think we can talk about now about what your family endured in Cuba and what your father endured in Cuba, and literally how precarious right now that balance is.
Well, I don't have much time, but I will tell you this.
Well, we can wrap it up with this and just focus on that.
I can just tell you that it was a horrible situation for my family, for your family, because we're related. So
we are. Full disclosure.
We lost.
John Goya is my cousin, and on the Cuban side of my family.
Yes, where we lost everything.
Yes.
Our parents had worked very hard to attain what they did. My uncle and my father spent many years in a Castro prison simply because they didn't agree with the government, simply because they refused to give their homes, their businesses, everything they owned to the government, because everybody had to be equal. Everybody had to give everything to the government because you owed nothing, because everything belonged to the government. So because they disagreed on giving away what they worked for, what they spent nights suffering for, what they spent maybe 12, 14, 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, and not being with the family because they were out there working. I just lost you, Gina. I don't know if you feel
you're back. I see.
Okay. What they worked for, they went to jail, and when we left, they took everything from us. I mean, I remember my mother said I had a very small gold chain that my godmother had given me with Our Lady of Charity, the patron of Cuba, which was a child's gold chain. So how expensive, how especially back then, how expensive could it have been? And the miliciano, the militant, literally grabbed it from. Now remember, I was 2.5 years old. He grabbed it and he pulled it off my neck. He didn't take it off. He didn't ask my mother to take it off. As we were going through the security checkpoint to see if we had anything with us, he saw it and he pulled it, and he actually, my mom said I cried, but he just pulled it off me. Didn't ask it for it. This belongs to the state. So if that's what America wants, then they need to do Joe Biden. I think my battery's dying here.
Okay.
I'm losing. Okay, John Goya, I'm watching the Poppins report. And Gina, you're fantastic. And let's talk soon.
All right.
Thank you
so much, John. Thank you, everybody. This has been the Poppins Report, and this is John Goya. And look for us, thepoppinsreport.com, bringing everything that you need to know about what's poppin'. Talk to you soon. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye.